Welcome back. This is the first episode of our podcast, and Aaron forgets to hit record for 10 minutes. That's okay. Aaron is doing genuinely way more work on this than I am. He looks amazing. He's fully outfitted, fully suited up. Am I allowed to talk about that?
Of course.
You putting so much effort into this. You did such a good job.
It's all about you right now.
Sorry.
What was your process going into this? What have you done right before this?
I have had, this is busy. This is a busy life I lead. I had a nap and was woken up with nerds. Came downstairs, put lip gloss on hard, and then sat here, ate the nerds, got dressed, and now we're recording. And we did it. We fucking did it. Here we are.
What have you been thinking about recently?
But you know what I've been thinking about recently? Something. I have been thinking about how, this is going to be some form of an advice podcast, I guess. Disclaimer, I am not a professional person. I have no qualifications in anything I'm talking about. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions, I guess. And I like to give advice. And so if you don't want to listen to it, you definitely please don't. But if you like getting advice or need advice or something, that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. And I have been noticing.
Okay.
This is off just exceptional start. It's not gonna drop on me, right?
No.
Okay. We just keep going?
Yeah, just keep going.
Just keep going. That's fine. What was I gonna say? That scared me for my life. I was really scared for my life. Just there. This is how Aaron elaborately sets up to kill me. Just put me in a chair and
by your own
swing the guillotine.
Name.
Yeah. Like, I'll let this bitch yap for a couple hours and then just cut it off. What I've been finding lately is that there are sometimes people will always say if they don't like your advice that they didn't ask for your advice. But if you're in conversation with someone and they're asking you questions and telling you about all of their problems and talking to you at length about them, and never once saying, I don't want to talk about this anymore, which anyone can say at any time, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And you give them advice, they actually love to hear it. They love to hear it. They love to ask more questions about it. They love to get all of the information from you. And then when they don't take the advice, then they hate it. Love to hear it, hate to take it, usually. Because my advice I have found recently, and, I don't know why you become a person who thinks that you are qualified to give your friends advice. I think it just comes from a place of wanting the best for them and having an idea if they have a problem on possible solutions. Doesn't mean that my advice is amazing all the time, right all the time, what people should be doing with their lives. But most of the time, my advice comes from a place of, I really love people. I do not care if it is cringe to really love people, or we think that's not cool, or whatever, people are stupid. I don't care. Fuck, you gotta love people anyway. I love people, and I think that there are so many options to live a really cool and amazing life. And I know that because I've lived not an amazing life, or I've lived years of my life that do not feel fantastic, that feel awful, that feel depressed, or just completely out of it, to struggle with mental health and other issues. I don't know. I know what it feels like to live years of your life that suck. I know what it feels like to live years of your life where you're like, how are these even going by so quickly? I also know what it's like to live years of your life that are just kind of mediocre, where nothing amazing is happening, but nothing horrible is happening either, but things don't quite feel right. I know the scope of it, of really bad, really medium, and really good. And I think that anytime somebody is really stuck on an issue, is having the same issue over and over again, is just going through something really rough, choosing to change something in your life that's not going well, to choose to make a different choice, even if that choice comes with an unknown possibility, an unknown outcome, choosing to change something is usually how people get to better places. I know friends who've lost their jobs, and losing their job and choosing to pursue their creative passions, different other careers, became the best thing they could have done and actually led them to doing full-time work in the field they want. Sometimes you have to put yourself in a position where you really need to like sink or swim, and that can be good for us. And sometimes I feel like people will, I don't know, ask questions or want advice or be going through the same issue. And then when your advice is to change something, that's too uncomfortable. That's too much, because it's so much easier to just do the same thing you've been doing. And what you really want is someone to make you feel better about the fact that you keep walking back into the same situation and not changing anything about it, because you tell yourself that you change little things, or you do, little things that are different. And it's okay. All of it's okay. If you don't take someone's advice, that's fine. If you go back into the same situation when someone suggested maybe that wasn't a good idea, also fine. You can do whatever you want. But if you keep being upset about the same things and talking to people about the same things, and then getting nervous and uncomfortable when certain people start to have advice of maybe something needs to change, you just need to be ready to make the change. And it's hard to get to that place of feeling ready to do anything. So sometimes I think people kind of resent the fact that your advice was for them to do something that they're not currently doing, because they just want everything they're doing to be okay. But everything we do is not fucking okay. And everything we do leads to what we do the next day. And so if you keep doing the same thing that you're not really sure about and don't like because you're afraid of the unknown, of the jump off the cliff of changing something, then you're going to have to invalidate all other advice you get, because it's not going to fit into the way that you live your life. You're going to have to make your life that you've chosen not to change okay for yourself by completely stripping away anything else, anything anyone else has to say. And I don't know, that's okay. That's totally fine. But then don't turn around and be like, I never wanted advice. Yeah. My angry rant.
Off to a good start.
Yeah. Is that too angry?
No. What does it look like when someone is asking questions just to...
What do you mean?
Like they want advice, but they just also like...
I think people
don't even know where to start because they're so lost.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I do this too, like I'm talking to myself too in all of this. I also don't take good advice from my friends or from myself. Mm-hmm. I don't always practice what I preach. I don't always, I don't always take good advice, whether it's from me or from other people. I think a lot of us don't. It's really easy to have perspective on someone else's life because your stake in it isn't as high as your own. And your stake in your own life is so high. So I get why it's hard. I get why it's a challenge to do anything different. Hell, I was in a relationship for 8 years that I knew like a year or two in that I wanted to leave and didn't until 8. And I didn't even leave. I got left. I got dumped. So the change had to happen for me. Someone had to be like, I'm doing it. And no one gave me, you know what? No one gave me the advice to leave. This wasn't a terrible person. This wasn't someone who was, for a lot of those years, aside from years I had a really hard time with my mental health, a lot of those years where we were just not the most happy, things were just very kind of medium. They were just mediocre. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, sometimes you don't have to leave a situation and be like, oh, that person was horrible. That experience was horrible. That's why I'm not doing it anymore, because I'm on the quest for greatness. Like, it's also just okay to be around people, opportunities, relationships, whatever, and have them just not work out and go, I'm just going to leave that there and wish you well. And it actually was just that this wasn't working. But I had no idea how to take that leap, and nobody was sitting there going, hey, you've got to do something either. I knew it. I knew that I was living a mediocre life and I was not really willing to change it. And that still comes up with me all the time in different ways. Like, it might not be relationships anymore because I'm so in love. But it can be other things, that I don't do. I see, friends of mine too, we all do it, where you get in a place that's comfortable and it feels really hard to leave a situation or move on to something better, or trust that, you know, things are going to work out after you lose your job. Like, it's really hard to deal with like those forced changes. So I get why people want to hear the advice if someone's willing to give it, because if someone gave me the advice that I should probably leave and that my life would be so much better, I guess I don't know if I should be name dropping, but if I should leave if someone had told me that if you leave your first boyfriend, you know, things are going to get better. If you leave your we were the common law married, but if you leave your partner, life will open up for you and you'll have the chance to kind of do what you want. If someone had told me that, I don't know that I would have been ready to hear it. So I understand when people are not ready to hear things, but they're curious. They're curious about someone else's opinion or another option. I get that. But then you can't be mad at the advice if you're not going to take it. If you're not going to take advice, just be really confident in the choice that you're making. Or always be confident in the choice that you're making. If you really want to do something, if you're actively choosing something, like, make conscious choices. It's hard. It's really hard to constantly be making conscious choices, to consciously choose not to lie, or to consciously choose, like, just small things that we do every day. To constantly choose something takes a lot of mental energy and a lot of work, but that's how you make the necessary brain patterns in place to live the life you want, to do the things you want to do, to write every day if that's your goal. Like, you have to do small, continuous things, and you have to be open to advice and not necessarily need to take it without having to be like, this advice is amazing or it's horrible. Like, you know, I think you have to be a bit more open to it. Some people don't, I think, especially people who know that the advice they're getting is probably right for them. People have more of an aversion to it. And then sometimes they don't. Sometimes when they do change something or they do make that, they're like, that was awesome. I'm so glad I did that. They feel really good. And I'm not just talking about my advice. I just think anybody who, like, reads a book that they resonate with, or sees a quote that they resonate with, or talks to a friend or family member and gets really good advice. When it's really good advice, sometimes it's really hard to take, and you kind of have to make that advice the evil thing before you're ready to do it. Like, I think, when people are in tricky relationships with partners where there just keeps being the same problem, it's just always the same problem over and over again. Or there's this sense of mediocrity, you know, there's not a huge problem. No one's cheating, no one's being horrible, but there's just this kind of sense that this really is not 100% your person. You love them and that's there, but it's just not how you want to feel with, like, the love of your life, you know? People will look for advice because people want the kind of dopamine rush they get too from talking to other people about their problems and having someone offer a solution, even if they're not going to take the solution. It feels so nice to cry with someone else. And I've been this friend, you know, where people are talking to you about something and they're really going through something hard. And, you know, you're chatting with them about that, and you explore all these possibilities together of things they could do. And then sometimes most of the time, I feel like, you know, you go back to the person, you know, that you're with, because not every fight is that you have between you and your significant other is like a relationship ender, right? As it shouldn't be. But if you keep running up against the same problems and you keep not feeling happy, you can also get in this cycle where you keep feeling better after you talk to other people about it, and then not really ever doing anything for yourself to leave the situation or make yourselves happier. And by the way, I'm not talking about anybody who's in an unsafe situation with a partner. You know, there's many reasons why people stay in relationships, and I think there should be no judgment in that. Like, you never have to take someone else's advice. You can go back into any relationship as many times as you want. It's just, how is that helping you? How is that benefiting you? If you really want to find the love of your life and you're messing around with someone at the hot dog stand, you're never going to get out there and see that big bad world. You're never going to get out there into the city and fucking find people who might like you. You're never going to visit the ice cream store or the donut shop or the cute little fucking cafe where people are meeting all the time. I don't know. Like, I know it's harder to meet people, but you're definitely not going to, if the goal is to meet the love of your life, you're definitely not going to do that stuck in a mediocre relationship with someone who doesn't really fully understand you. And it's okay if that person isn't a horrible person, you're just not very compatible. I think if you want the best for yourself, you always have to be looking for and finding and kind of demanding for yourself the best, and be kind to other people if the best for you isn't that person in front of you or isn't that opportunity. That's the other thing. We think if it's not for us, we have to shit all over it and be like, fuck that thing, fuck that person's awful. No, that person can be amazing. That job opportunity can be amazing for somebody else. It's just not for you. And the way that you leave things, if you leave them graciously, you know, and go, I just, that's not for me, and I've got to find what is, you will always align yourself closer with what you want, who you are. It's going to feel selfish at times. It is selfish. Fuck, we get one life. Think about yourself. It's okay. It's okay to think about yourself and be kind and respectful to other people. It's okay to end a relationship if you're not in love with somebody. It's okay to say no to a job opportunity if it's not something you want to do, or to move away. Like, it's okay to do whatever you want. It really is. You just have to try your best not to hurt other people or make it their problem. And you will hurt other people. There will always be collateral damage. There will always be things going wrong. There will always be people who are mad at you or who don't like you, have a different perspective of the story, who think you said something even when you didn't. And that's so frustrating, of course. But for the most part, if you just try, I think, to be kind, try to see other people's perspectives when you can, but stick to what you want to do and really follow that, I don't know, there's a lot of problems that just get a little bit quieter, and a lot of issues that can be avoided, and a lot of unnecessary repetition in your life where you're just not feeling good or not really feeling connected to it all. And I know this as someone who's felt extremely disconnected from everything and everyone, completely isolated, alone, and you know, completely trapped in my own mind, and someone who's felt very connected to other people. And it's hard sometimes, you know, we all want to feel close to people, and then we also sometimes want to feel superior to people, or like people don't really ever fully understand us or something, or I don't know. We seem to oscillate between both, of like wanting a lot of love and communication and to be close to people, and then people are stupid and weird and no one gets me and I'm just me. And I think if you just choose yourself a little bit more, choose the people that you're around a little bit wiser, not be not afraid to walk away from things that aren't good for you in a kind and respectful way, you will get closer to people, opportunities, hobbies, I don't know, whatever you do in your day, like whatever your schedule looks like, you will get closer to doing things in your life, waking up in the day, doing things, being with people, saying things that feel like you. And there will be less of a need, I think, for, I really want to be close to people, but I hate everyone. Like it's up to you. It's your responsibility to find the path that you want to walk, to carve it out, to, you know, it's harder to carve it out than to just walk one that's already there. But I feel like when you carve it out, I don't know, it helps with a lot of things. It can be a real lifesaver and making your brain better and making your life better too.
Have you heard of a desire path?
No, I don't think so. What's that?
It's like when you're in a park or something and you see like a patch, like a straight line that the grass doesn't grow. It's because people use it as their quickest way to the place they want to go, and so many people like cut across a park that it becomes a desire path.
Oh, cool.
So it makes a path in the grass where grass can't grow because it's always being walked on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's cool. And then there's like animal trails, other ways to say it.
Yeah.
Animals do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Humans do it.
Yeah.
But to carve that path.
Well, think about the first
you have
person
to walk
who
it
was
many
like,
times.
can I walk through this park?
Yeah, you're gonna get muddy.
Yeah.
You're gonna get wet.
Yeah. It's not going to be the most even terrain, right?
Yeah.
Totally. I like that.
Easy to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do carve it out, other people see that there's a way to do that. Other people see that there's an option to do that. Because I'm also like, I'm speaking from a very privileged place and being raised by parents who showed me that there could be lots of possibilities, you know? And I think for some people, you don't get to see all the possibilities because of many other things. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes not being as selfish and not seeing, you know, the possibilities for yourself, it leads you to other ways of life that I'm sure are very beautiful and very interesting. But I think there can be community too, and finding out more about yourself and what makes you feel good and really honoring that. It doesn't have to be an isolating experience one way or the other. I think it can be very, like you said, lots of people were walking on the desire path, right? Because a lot of people wanted to cut across the park. And I think showing somebody that that's possible, or just, I don't know, like I got my inspiration from a lot of people who showed me certain things were possible, certain lives were possible. I got a lot of really interesting advice after my separation. I've got a lot of interesting advice many times in my life where I really needed it, where I really had a problem. I was doing this. Like when I speak about kind of saying the same thing and having the same issue over and over again, I was and am that person. I still am that person with many things that are hard to work through. I think that's just kind of the human, I don't know, problem solving way where we go through the same problem a few times. We really kind of try to sort it out. And then hopefully eventually we make the change, or the change is made for us. But I don't know. I like being the one responsible for the change. I've always found that anytime the change happens to me, I do figure it out and I do come out of it, and I do ask for that advice and I get that help and I move through it. But it is a really useful skill to be able to initiate the change on your own. And it's really hard. My dad always said, if you can't accept something, change it. And if you can't change it, you have to accept it. Which I think it just applies to so many things. I really like that, very dad saying, but I really like that saying because it's so true. If you can't accept something, if something is just impossible for you to accept, then you have to do something to change it. Don't just complain about it, change it. And if you can't change it, if it's something that is either out of your control to change or you're not ready to change it, then you have to find acceptance with it. There's kind of two options, or you'll just kind of continue to, or I guess you don't have to do either of those things, but you continue to be in a cycle of being really kind of on edge and unhappy. And I found that anytime I do initiate change in my life, it usually goes well, even if I don't know what I'm doing. Like this, look at this. We didn't have a podcast. We didn't have a podcast studio. Like we didn't have any of that stuff. And then you are very good at this. Aaron Campbell is extremely good at this. If he can't accept something every day. Every day Aaron Campbell wakes up and he's like, I cannot accept the way that life is today. I need to change it. I need to do 5,000 projects. I need to do a million things. I need to change it. I need to change this and this, and I need another plant, and I need 5,000 goldfish. Like you wake up every day ready to change something, and not in a bad way. I think in a really cool way where you're just not afraid to keep things moving and changing. It's a really interesting quality that you have. I've never really met someone who's kind of just so okay with, yeah, that's out. That doesn't work. To change it. Nope, I don't want it like this. I want to change it. And you do, and you come up with brilliant things because of it. You're a prime example of somebody who just changes it and tries something new. And I mean, I'm very lucky to get to reap the rewards of that as your partner and doing stuff like this. But it's phenomenal, and it's one of the reasons I love you so much. And I think it's exciting for me to be with a person who embraces change and who sees new things that we can be doing and is innovative, is an inventor. Like I like that inventive mindset, and it's teaching me to be more like that, because everything I yap about really confidently is also something I struggle with. I think that's a big part. It's tough to admit. I, would love to be like, I just have great advice, and I'm sitting on top of the world over here with my perfect life. But I've had to take my advice fucking so many times. And anytime I feel like my life even is presenting as perfect, there's so many weird things going on. I have horrific OCD and intrusive thoughts and blinding anxiety. Sometimes it makes it impossible to move and feel like I have any control over what's in my own brain. So I yeah, I'm definitely not holier than thou. Every single thing that I feel like I've talked about or that I give advice is coming from a place of experience. That's the one thing I did get lucky with, is I got to experience lots of things because my parents, you know, broke up when I was so young and then got remarried. And I lived and met a lot of different adults and people, I feel like, in my youth. Barf. Nerds. I'm in my youth forever, baby. I like candy till the day I die.
In 6 months.
What?
From all the candy.
Yeah, definitely. I'll die in 6 months from nerd overdose. Notre dose. But it's definitely not good. That's bad. But yeah.
I think it's called liver failure.
Yeah. I think it's called acute heart attack. Yeah, I feel like I got the opportunity to see a lot of people do a lot of things, make certain mistakes. I got the opportunity to do that too, because I was in a common law marriage very young, and you know, and I also lived, you know, lives in multiple jobs and doing things I wanted, touching things I wanted to do, touching things I wanted to get close to, and then not doing it and spending years kind of, I don't know, letting life kind of pass me by. And I feel like there's just been so many phases through all of that. And the biggest thing that, I mean, the root of any time I give anyone advice is that being okay with change and adapting to change is important. It's a good thing. And it usually leads to really cool places. And I have personal experience with that too, with it leading me to really interesting and beautiful places I never thought I'd go, and meeting people and getting close to people that I love. And I don't know, there's a lot to discover. You just kind of have to do it. Like, I moved to Vancouver with 3 suitcases and I knew no one here. I had 2 acquaintances who were friends of friends who had moved here around the same time, who are now 2 of my best friends.
Shout out
Emily and Alicia. Love you guys. But at the time, you know, felt like just me, living in a studio apartment, no roommates, a work from home job out of Toronto. So I didn't really have any connection in Vancouver. Like, if I wanted to, and this was a really weird realization for me, when I got to Vancouver, I was like, if I want to, I can sit in this bed for a year. I can ride out this year-long lease in my bed, working from my bed, never going outside. I could actually do that, because from the first time in my life, there was no one. There was no roommate or partner or parent asking me to do something, making plans with me, making plans with me. There was no one filling out my schedule, and there was no thing I had to do. There was no place I had to be. There was no new workplace I had to arrive at to meet people. If I wanted to, I could just meet no one and kind of live this obsolete existence. And I seriously thought about doing that. I did that for like a month, because it was easy to be like, oh, I'm moving into a new place, I'm still getting stuff ready. I barely went outside, and I think I had a little I don't know, I think I was in a little bit of shock from moving and like didn't really go anywhere. But I was grateful to be there, and I wanted to explore. I just didn't really know how. And then I kind of a lot of things in life I find I have to kind of scare myself into doing, which is maybe not great, but I actually think it's fine. Sometimes you just need to get a little fire up there and just be like, crap. I don't want to sit in my bed for a year. As much as I would love to sit in my bed for a year, actually, if I could. I love my bed. If I could be in that thing for a whole year, I'd love that. I really would. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to come here. And I came at like the rainiest month too. It was like November of, I don't know, the end of 2021, before I started stand up. And, oh my God, it was wild. I remember just being like, it's raining every day. It's raining every single day. And then slowly but surely I started to do stuff. And then eventually I went to my first mic. I just told myself I was going. I was like, you have to go tonight. And I actually had no jokes written at all. I had been moseying over it and never really putting pen to paper. And then I forced myself to write 5 minutes material. It was like a story kind of, but I did 5 minutes. And then I got to the mic and they were like, it's 4 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I have to condense my 5 minutes into 4 minutes, which is just so dumb now. But yeah, I went to 12 Kings. It was the only sign up. Shout out 12 Kings, RIP. It was the only sign up and go up open mic that I could find. I knew nobody here. I knew nobody in the scene. I just looked on the forum, the Facebook shout out forum, and I shout out Vancouver Stand Up Comedy Forum, and then fuck this tree, and then I fuck this tree. First of all, fuck the tree. Okay, so but yeah, turning it off, click clack, perfect. But yeah, I was like, well, I guess this is the place to go. Like, it was the only place to go that you could sign up and go up that night, and you didn't have to email or do anything. And that was how it all started. That's how we got here.
It's always the place to go.
You love 12 Kings.
Sometimes you gotta go.
What's that?
Everybody knows your
Oh, yeah. Cheers.
And you're number 37 on the sign-up list.
The what?
You're number
37 on the sign-up list? Yes.
No one's glad you came.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. Not good. I'm going to cut all of that.
No, it would be where everybody mispronounces your name.
Yeah.
Whatever. Regardless, I went to a sign-up.
Show up, go up.
I went to a show up, go up open mic because it was the only one like it at the time. Everything else was like you had to email beforehand. And I told my weird little story and I got a couple laughs and I kind of blacked out. Don't remember what happened. Didn't move the mic stand out of the way. When you do stand up, you have to move the mic stand out of the way. Did not do that.
I've seen that video.
Yeah.
Link in bio.
First Link in bio. Yeah. Sick. I was wearing my cut up Rammstein t-shirt. I was like, I'm going to be different.
I'm not like the other girl leads.
I'm not like them. No. It's freaking, honestly, this is a real shout out. It is and always will be a privilege to be compared to the lady comedians in Vancouver because we have so many funny women in Vancouver. If you are coming to Vancouver, go see a stand-up comedy show.
Name 49.
Name 49? There aren't 49. I will tell you right now, they're not 49 at all. But there are so many funny ladies in this city. But yeah, anyway, shout out. I wore a weird t-shirt. I wanted to be probably cool and different. Still very much a theater kid. Yikes energy to bring to stand-up comedy, but whatever. Don't regret it. Loved it. Did it all the time.
Just kept doing it.
Even when it sucks, it's kind of great.
That early you who was not scared, but hesitant to leave your partner because it wasn't amazing. You were also hesitant to do things that you knew you wanted to do.
Totally.
Yeah. They went hand in hand. You can't say it was all because of him.
Oh, it wasn't. No, yeah, absolutely it wasn't. Decisions. The breakup was an isolated thing, really, and it's no one's fault. The shitty thing about, I think, getting older, and I still have this realization all the time, is just my mom used to say it. She'd be like, look at the big picture. It really isn't all about you. And that's true. If you want it to be about you, you kind of have to make it about you. You have to carve out spaces. You have to set up lights and brick walls in your house and make a podcast. Like, if you want to say something or you want to be a performer, which in itself is kind of a cringy thing. It's weird that we're like, this, people will want to listen to this. Like me sitting here giving advice unqualified. Like, it's with nerd tongue listening to Megan Thee Stallion. Like, I don't know. It's weird that any of us assume that people should want to hear what we have to say, but if you want to do that, you kind of just have to get over that and do it. Like you don't get to be like, yeah, I'm going to talk about myself, but then also like I hate myself. Like you just have to, yeah, we all hate ourselves. I will never watch this. I will never rewatch or re-listen to this when this becomes an episode because I hate hearing myself talk, but I also really want to talk. And so that's the fun little dichotomy we get to live in. And I think the problem is before you start anything, when you start something, you have to be bad at it. That's what I loved about stand-up. Right from the get-go, it's just actually not that big of a deal to do your first set because you just have to do it. And then you just have to do it all the time. And you have to be okay with being really fucking bad at it. I was and still often am very bad at stand-up comedy. That's okay. That's not a horrible thing to say. I'm terrible at podcasting. I've never podcasted before. All of that is fine. That's okay. I know though that in order to get good at anything, you have to do it all the time. You just have to do it all the time. You have to make it a thing that your brain that was a crazy sound. I was like farting with my face. You have to just do it all the time. You have to do stand up, your hobby, whatever job you want to do, you have to do something all the time. And I think a lot of people get stuck because they've decided that they want to make a change and they want to do something different, but they don't know what that is. And I sympathize with that. I totally do. Because if you don't know what you want to do or what you want to try, obviously if the advice pertains to leaving a bad relationship or something, there's kind of an easy trajectory there. But when it comes to finding new hobbies or a new job, or I don't know, just finding some different purpose in your life that doesn't revolve around a relationship or a friendship or even a connection to your family, but just revolves around you finding something you want to do with your time, I guess. That's like a personal pursuit. I feel like that's really difficult when you don't know what it is, because you kind of have to go out and try things and then not like them to learn what you do like. And when you do find something you like, it will be so much easier to just do it all the time. That's the thing I love, is that I was trying to do other like creative pursuits. I don't know, I was acting. I had an agent. I was getting an audition once every like 4 months for a one-line part. So I just set up my camera to be like, crispy chicken thighs. Oh my. And then I would send that to somebody and I would not do another audition for 4 more months. And I would be like, I'm going to be an actor.
I'm waiting on a callback.
I'm going to be an actor. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Absolutely not. And I would do other things, like other little creative things. If other friends brought me into it, I wrote a short and we ended up filming it but it was because my friend was honestly much more of a go-getter. I was not. I was lazy. And I was lazy too because I don't think I was doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing. I was also lazy because, as you said, Aaron, when you're in a relationship or you're in a place in your life where you're not inviting change and looking for change, it does tend to seep into every area. And so you tend to get into these places where you're like, shit, I'm not doing anything. I'm not making any changes. I'm not trying anything new. And it's showing up in so many areas of my life that are now just becoming complacent and mediocre and mundane and the same. And therefore bad. And then I think it leads us to more problems just in our lives in all areas, because we're just not being honest with the fact that we want something to change or we need something to change. We just don't have that ability to be honest. And if you cannot give yourself the truth, if you cannot speak the truth, even just out loud to yourself or write it in your diary or notebook or whatever, then you have now become completely detached from what you want. And how sad is that? I've lived that. It's so sad. It's so sad to live a life where you feel like you are in the passenger seat, or worse, in the fucking trunk. You are not driving. You are strapped to the roof. Like, that sucks, because who's driving that car? Nobody else cares about your life that much. Even the people who are the closest to you. And that's a hard thing to hear and feel sometimes, but nobody cares about your life as much as you. And if you don't care about your life and you are feeling really, really bad or negative with your mental health, nobody also doesn't care as much as you. Like you kind of have this, I don't know, like unknown power, and also it's kind of nothing. Like it's this weird concoction of magic that can be so many things if that's what you want to make it, and can be nothing if you want it to be nothing. Your life, you can be responsible for your life being absolutely fucking awesome or being absolute shit. And I realize that that is a generic statement, and lots of people have other things that are up against them to try and make their lives harder, or they've faced certain challenges. And I'm so sympathetic to that, because there's so many things that could go wrong. There's so many bad ways change can find you that you didn't ask for. You know, people can hurt you, and jobs can come and go, and money, you know, if you don't have enough money to really survive, that just, I don't know, just takes it out of you in such a way where you can't think about anything else. And so I get that. There are so many ifs, button, ands to everything that I ever say as generic. And I'm so aware of that. But I think at the end of the day, if you're in a place to listen to something and you want something to change, that is always an option. There is always options. And sometimes it comes with an extreme amount of hard work, or an extreme amount of being super consistent on one little thing, or asking for and inviting change in areas that you can, in areas you feel like you can start. Maybe not in everything, maybe not blowing up your whole life, but just to start. And I had the benefit of my whole life kind of blowing up at the same time. You know, I lost my job, I lost my relationship, moved back in with my parents, had a really bad OCD break and couldn't even think about the breakup because I was so miserable and my intrusive thoughts were so loud. And so I had the benefit of having everything at life kind of go to shit at once. And it got to a place where I was like, I'm not really sure if life is for me. You know, I don't know if life is something I think is real great and that we should cherish, you know. And I think you have to get to that point sometimes. Not have to. I hope no one does. Sorry. I don't think anyone has to get there. Sometimes it's helpful to get to this really, really like bottom place, and have to figure out how to rebuild from that. And if you can't go to that square zero, or life doesn't take you to that square zero on its own. I also got COVID at the time before we were all vaccinated, and that was a nightmare, you know? And so I just felt like life was like kind of piling things on top of me at that time. And I think that sometimes it can be that life's piling everything on top of you, and sometimes it can just be that you need to initiate a small change yourself. And I actually think that's also fantastic. You know, you don't have to blow up your life. You can just actively choose new things that you want to do and try. And how cool is that there is always some control. You can always do something and change something. And the more that you do, the more that it becomes practice, the more that your brain doesn't fear it as much and will go towards it. And the more that you can incorporate it into so many areas of your life until you build yourself like a really solid sphere, I guess, around you that kind of contains everything that you are. And you'll keep having to revamp it. It's a constant thing. You'll keep having to change and go different areas and look for what works. And the more that you keep doing that, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more you can just keep doing things you want to do and lead yourself, I think, to really great places. I know that where I'm at right now is not where I want to be. There's a lot of things I want to get better at. I want to get better at doing this. I want to get better on, you know, not having one sentence that isn't a run-on sentence would be cool, I think, as a goal for me in this podcast. But I also I know that we'll figure it out, because you just have to do it. You have to do it all the time and be curious about what's going wrong, if something's going wrong or not working. And that's just like stand up, but it's just like so many things. And just doing it a little bit of something, like every day or whenever you can, just make it a habit. Make everything a habit. Make everything that you love and want to do a habit. And even if that's taking care of yourself or talking to people in different ways, or learning how to be more empathetic, a better listener, a better lover, a better, I don't know, labradoodle breeder, whatever, I don't know, that you want to do. Just, there's so many ways to do it. And I think it always just starts with being curious about what you can change and changing it. And that's a period. That's the first time there's been a period